Macfrut Academy's fourth class is dedicated to strawberries, which have seen a great global expansion driven by growing consumer appreciation. We'll focus on production in the Mediterranean basin, in particular in Italy, Spain and Morocco. We'll start from the latest trends of varietal selection, then delve into market demand and see what strategies can be implemented at a research and production level to satisfy it. Lastly, we'll head to the production plants where strawberries are processed and packaged to see how the quality that is produced in the field can be defended by means of automation and packaging. We'll cover the technologies that help preserve strawberries and extend their shelf life while also fostering sustainability. Without further ado, let's get started! There are three elements that contribute to obtaining a quality strawberry: the varietal selection, the cultivation technique, and the climatic conditions. Each strawberry, each variety has its own characteristics, such as the aroma, flavor, pulp, firmness, and shelf life. This means that choosing a variety of strawberry is essential. Just as important are environmental aspects, particularly soil and water quality, but above all, the climate. This is exactly why the cultivation of strawberries has extended in many regions of the Mediterranean basin, thanks to the characteristics of certain areas. To give you an example, I'm thinking about Spain, in the area of Huelva, or Italy, in the southern regions of our country. The Mediterranean area is among the most important in the world for strawberry production, especially in the autumn and winter months. The key players in the Mediterranean area are still Spain and Italy for sure. But in recent years, North African countries have seen an increase in production, particularly Morocco. It is precisely in this country that the surface planted with strawberries tripled in the 2019-2021 timeframe, reaching 4,000 hectares and therefore exceeding Italy's surface. In the last 10 years, the strawberry sector has witnessed a great leap forward, both in terms of quantities produced and land cultivated globally. The world production of strawberries was about 6.4 million tons in 2011, and it reached almost 9.2 million tons in 2021. This translates to a growth of more than 30% and a 16% increase in land area, going from 324 to 390,000 hectares. The difference between the increase in land area and production highlights the impact of varietal innovation and techniques on the yield, which is particularly evident in the EU countries. Therefore, the role of research is key. Just like the agricultural sector as a whole, strawberries are also prone to facing significant challenges in the short term. One is definitely the need to identify new varieties and new cultivation systems that adapt to the main climatic variations. With regard to strawberry cultivations, these translate to key priorities such as water requirement. A further urgent matter is the need to reduce the use of pesticides. This too requires new cultivation techniques, but primarily new varieties that should ideally be obtained thanks to innovative technologies, contributing to better resisting the attack of the main bacterial, fungal and viral diseases. On top of this, production needs to be guaranteed. It's essential for farmers. A standard of 1 kilo of strawberries per plant is what farmers are aiming for. When we talk about technologies for genetic improvement, we have to remember that it's not just the genetic resource, namely biodiversity, that is fundamental. When biodiversity is missing, you are also missing an important genetic source. And we also need to consider the ability to manage the genetic improvement program, its extent and the technology. The extent concerns the number of crossings you make and the number of seedlings you produce and evaluate, as well as how you can evaluate them. Many programs have only been based on subjective evaluation so far, but with the increase in the availability of technologies using genomic techniques, we can now make much more in-depth evaluations. This is now more convenient for strawberries too, due to the advanced knowledge we have of the genome, as well as the identity of markers and the number of markers identified for important traits. The use of molecular markers for strawberries is also turning into an opportunity. Techniques such as the GWAS allow us to identify not only markers, but also specific genes associated with certain traits. This advanced technique can lead to a dual outcome, assisting farmers in the selection of material, while also identifying the genes which can then be introduced or modified. This adds to genomic prediction, which aims at reviewing germplasm with a view to identifying the most interesting germplasm for the definition of crossing programs, that is, the parental plants, varieties or genotypes that best pass on certain traits. This definitely helps in planning the genetic improvement program too, as it allows you to identify the parental plants that can best transmit the trait of the production quantity and associate it with quality, resistance to a given trait, and so on. So, these three genomic techniques are certainly quite advanced. Moreover, I would not rule out the fact that through new biotechnologies and new genomic knowledge, we can have a better understanding of genome editing and how to remove and eliminate genes that can be detrimental for the plant growth, resulting in improvement for the plants. We can also work with the insertion of strawberry genes into strawberries, that is to say, with the cisgenic approach, or through the expression and application of RNA, which is key for plant defense against various diseases. This involves small fragments of RNA interfering with genes, not those of the plant, rather the genes of the pathogens or parasites, therefore blocking their infective ability. These genomic and phenotypic data combined create a need for bioinformatics tools that can analyze such data and gather, evaluate and examine it with advanced statistical tools which allow you to find correlations. In other words, this means working towards our final goal, which is to identify the genotype that has the traits or a combination of traits that interest us, and ideally also the genetic markers or the genes that are directly involved in determining these traits. In my opinion, the world of strawberry propagation is for sure facing some serious issues. These are related to health quality, in addition to the genetic stability of plants. And a solution to try to curb the impact of traditional propagation techniques on the health quality of the material involves the more extensive yet controlled use of in vitro culture and micropropagation. This is a protocol we are working on, which makes in vitro plant propagation possible for us, not only as required by current legislation to produce basic material that must then go through at least 3 cycles of in vivo propagation before getting to the farmer. This is the problem that the current legislation is facing. In other words, the basic material we have is healthy, but then the final material that the farmers get has problems of phytosanitary nature. This happens because nurseries have serious contamination issues, but considering micropropagation to produce mother plants, which can then be directly placed in the nursery and in the field, already improves health quality, while still entailing a certain level of risk of having at least one cycle in the field. Another possibility, and several other companies are already doing this, is producing micropropagated plants and using these plants produced in vitro as a mother plant. They are not grown in the soil, rather in a protected environment. It's a soilless cultivation in order to produce a high quantity of stolons. There are techniques proving that it is possible to produce even more than 1,000 plants per meter with soilless cultivation. So these plants can obviously no longer be classified as cold stored plants, but are identified as mini tray or tray plants if they are larger, and then they are sold directly to the farmer. In this way, farmers get a plant that has never been in the ground. There's a third option that can still be considered, which involves using, in certain systems, the micropropagated plant to be given to the farmer. From the experiments we are carrying out, I can tell that this opportunity looks feasible at this time, particularly for remontant plants. This plant almost certainly has a higher cost, of course, and yet it can be interesting for intensive production systems where the health of the plant is essential. This is the case, seeing as how placing just one infected plant, even if it's not severely infected, in an intensive vertical aeroponic system with an extensive water circuit will cause the infection to quickly spread throughout the system with great damage to the entire production. How does a new variety of strawberries come to life? Let's find out more about how genetic improvement processes are developed. In recent years, we have been approaching new biotechnologies that allow us to have improvements in a shorter time. That being said, this obviously doesn't mean that we're leaving the traditional genetic improvement techniques behind. Rather, they will only support the technology that we are already using to search for new selections. We try to get rustic varieties, which can withstand the pathogens that affect the strawberries, have a long shelf life and good organoleptic properties, that is to say, the flavor, bricks, the right sugar to acidity ratio, and a nice aroma as well. A further key issue we need to tackle is soil fatigue and the reduced use of phytosanitary products that we have been experiencing in recent years. In order to get rustic varieties, new selections are subjected to strong pressure of diseases, namely fungi and other pathogens that mainly affect the root system. We select the cultivars that can grant a good yield even in challenging conditions in terms of soil infestation. This is how we ensure an excellent production in the field and good yields in the nursery. It's safe to say that in the best case scenario, it takes 7 to 8 years to have a commercially interesting cultivar. The difficulty lies precisely in adding all the traits that we want in a single variety or in a single plant. This is exactly why research time is so long, and biotechnologies will certainly be a support, but they won't be a definitive solution. One of the most important aspects of a nursery is having pathogen-free soil, or in any case, as fewer pathogens as possible in the soil where plant propagation is carried out. This ensures that farmers are provided with healthy nursery material. The propagation activity in nurseries is becoming increasingly difficult precisely because of the use of phytosanitary products, for local disinfestation of the soil is not allowed or is only allowed in doses that are barely effective at all. Therefore, the only possible option is to either have virgin soil or use tolerant varieties, that is, that can withstand the pathogens in the soil well. This is the only way a nursery owner can get a commercially valid production, meaning both in terms of quality and quantity, and at the same time we are able to guarantee adequate nursery material for the farmer. Nurseries are generally built at a high altitude, precisely because we want to get a plant that is in a vegetative stasis condition when it is time to uproot it from the nursery, which is done around the month of October for fresh plants. Therefore, nurseries are generally located in areas that can have an influence on this aspect, for example in the north of Spain. Generally, the cycle we have here in the Mediterranean basin is an annual cycle. That is, we transplant plants in October, we start harvesting at the end of December or January, and the harvest continues until about May. On the other hand, Northern European countries generally have a 2-year cycle, meaning that the majority of the production takes place during the second year. So these varieties that are in the field for 2 years must be able to withstand adverse weather conditions, including very low temperatures. As a consequence, the selected varieties have a higher requirement of cold temperatures in continental climates in order to guarantee a good production the following year. This differs completely from the Mediterranean basin, where there is no such thing as a very cold winter, and therefore fruit production can already happen in the first winter months. Today, Nova Series Genetics has very important varieties on the market, which are widely distributed both in Italy and in other countries of the Mediterranean basin, in particular in Spain, Greece and in North Africa, for instance in Morocco. To give you an example, we have very rustic and productive cultivars such as Marimbella, Rosetta and Joelita, which have very good organoleptic properties and high yields, and are quite resistant to various pathogens. As for earliness, they allow us to have a considerable production during winter, from the end of December onwards, in particular Marimbella. The duration of the harvest is extended and the quality of the fruit is well kept even when the temperatures are high, so from April to May, which is a very critical moment for production. On the other hand, as for environmental sustainability, working with tolerant cultivars allows us to reduce the use of phytosanitary products in the field, as the use of beneficial insects has made it possible for us to cut its use almost completely. At Nova Series Genetics we work a lot on this. We have indeed put into practice a whole series of techniques and technologies precisely to obtain material that is similar to the original variety. Once we have identified and selected a variety that we believe is valid from a commercial point of view, the meristematic tips are taken under sterile conditions, and these small portions of tissue are grown in vitro. Once the in vitro plants have been obtained, a phytosanitary check is performed as part of a lab analysis and are brought to a propagation screen house. This is where the first group of basal material is tested in the field to verify the genetic similarity with the original variety. Once we get a positive result, the first group of basic material is then sent to nurseries, where the propagation process for the production of mother plants starts. This is followed by the production of commercial plants for farmers the following year. The first step to get quality strawberries therefore lies in the varietal selection, and producers can now count on innovative and sustainable methods to preserve it. This company produces, breeds, packages and sells insects and mites that are beneficial for agriculture. Bioplanet has been part of the CBC Group since 2023. The CBC Group is already present in the world of agriculture under the BioGuard brand. Today we can present a full range of beneficial organisms. By beneficial organisms I mean natural enemies of harmful insects and mites, therefore organisms that can be used in agriculture as a phytophagous insect control system. This can be an alternative or even a complementary system for the traditional control systems. Beneficial insects and mites are used in agriculture, starting from strawberry cultivation up to the entire horticultural sector. More recently, their use has also increased a lot in fruit farming, particularly for wine grapes, and we are also witnessing a rapid evolution of their use in extensive farming. We are primarily talking about organisms that are natural enemies of the red spider mite, or mites in general, or of thrips, whiteflies and aphids. This is a bit of an overview of the main issues that we are facing in the world of agriculture. The use of beneficial insects and mites is essentially based on the principle of balance. In other words, in nature, every harmful organism has one or more natural antagonists. Breeding and using these natural antagonists to create a balance in our favor has turned into a control method. The balance we obtain can reduce the impact caused by harmful insects, bringing it to a level which is not worrying in terms of the damage they could cause. While this control method is biological, it is not used exclusively in organic agriculture. Rather, 90% of our market consists of conventional agriculture. The first step of quality control implies the analysis of the genetic and genomic data of the mites and insects that we collect in the wild. This allows us to gather detailed information on the specimens we got and therefore avoid introducing unwanted populations or species in the production and later on in the field. Within the scope of quality control, we also ensure that every organism that enters our company is free of contaminants and therefore of possible pathogens, whether phytopathogens or entomopathogens. This is how we are able to guarantee the production of healthy and vigorous organisms. The quality control analysis we carry out during the following production stages involve the constant monitoring of the genetic variability of these organisms, which then guarantees a greater ability to adapt to the different pests and to the different environmental conditions in the field. Lately, we have also been focusing our attention on an in-depth analysis of the microbiome of our organisms. On the one hand, this allows us to evaluate the performance of the organisms where they are bred. On the other hand, we can get an accurate idea of the type of food to be given to our populations. We provide strawberry growers with a complete strategy, starting from the management of phytophagous insects to disease management in the field. A classic example of this in strawberry farming is the current integration between microorganisms, namely the phytocidae for the red spider control, which perfectly integrates naturalis, a microbiological acaricide made from Beauveria bassiana. This integration ensures that the farmers can always have the right tools for phytophagous insect control, which can be selectively and fully compatibly combined. Another example of solving issues in strawberry cultivation is the management of soil diseases. We can count on a phytosanitary product for this specific case, namely Amylo-XLC, which is made from Bacillus amyloliquefaciens, a microorganism that can control soil diseases effectively and safely, as well as preserve soil fertility. A further example of microbiological control of diseases in strawberry cultivation concerns the issues of botrytis. In this case, Amylo-XWG can be used to control this disease. This one is also made from the same microorganism, and it can be used safely, it doesn't leave any residue, and is convenient for users. Now let's head to southern Italy to see how beneficial insects are used and learn about the strategy of Copsole from the Macfrut group. We started using biological control tools about 30 years ago, and it took us approximately 15 years to consolidate the technique that all our members have been using. In order to be successful, a lot of work needs to be done on prevention. This requires a sound knowledge of the strawberry cultivation cycle, and the potential threats for the different phenological stages. These risks increase and worsen depending on the climate conditions. For example, a great adversity is botrytis, a grey mold that appears on strawberries. It obviously appears when humidity is very high. We take a number of actions to enhance greenhouse ventilation, taking into account their length as well as the width of the headlands. We also manage ventilation by opening and closing the front. We open them during the day to allow ventilation, and we close them in the evening because we need to maintain a certain temperature. Here too, the key word is prevention. We know when harmful insects can cause damage, and through careful monitoring, we are able to determine when the right time is to act. The main phytophagous insects we are controlling are the red spider mite and the thrips, Thrips occidentalis in particular. We use a predatory mite against the former, namely the Phytocoelus persimilis, and a number of species of aureus for the latter, particularly Navigatus. Through careful monitoring, we analyze the appearance of the first specimens and start planning when to distribute the insects. As far as the predatory mite is concerned, this can be as early as the beginning of the year. In the case of the thrips, it is moved to the first 10 days of February. The insects come in a 250 cc bottle made of recycled plastic, together with a spreader. This is released over the plant, aiming to get a fairly uniform distribution in order to facilitate the predator-prey encounter. Strawberry pollination is entomophilous. It occurs by means of insects. We use bumblebees periodically based on flowering time and the hive's lifespan. Spain is Europe's main strawberry producer and the world leader in terms of export, accounting for about 300,000 tons per year and handling about a third of the volumes exported globally. It's now time to go to Huelva, Spain's strawberry capital, to know more about the evolution of this key production area. Huelva's strawberry production accounts for 95% of Spain's production. At the moment, during this season, there are 6,200 hectares that are cultivated with strawberries here in Huelva. It used to be a monoculture initially, only strawberries were cultivated, which means that there were practically 7,000 to 9,500 hectares and they all had strawberries. As I mentioned, out of about 11,300 hectares, 6,200 have strawberries now. Blueberries come second in the berry sector, with about 3,200 hectares. About 1,600 hectares are raspberries, and the rest, about 300 hectares, are blackberries. Among the challenges we need to respond to at the moment, water is undoubtedly one of the main challenges faced by Huelva. I think the first challenge has to do with irrigation and the need for water. The second is the need for manpower for harvest. And the third, which is also important for the countries in the Mediterranean area, as you know, is that we are turning to the European Union regarding these restrictions for the products we need for pest control, as this topic is one of our strong points. We are looking for varieties that are rustic and resistant. And then, of course, varieties that are good to eat, because a fundamental aspect for Huelva strawberries is their taste, and that the consumer is able to determine what kind of strawberry they are eating. This is why we can never overlook the importance of the taste the strawberries need to have. And the variety we are looking for obviously needs to be a variety that has these qualities and that is also suitable for transport, that can be preserved during transport and that is resistant. That is why it has to be rustic. Spain has built its leadership through constant investments in innovation. And it continues to do so putting effort into improving aspects such as taste and shelf life. With regard to testing, research and development in the strawberry sector, we are carrying out tests with new selections that mostly concern cultivations in the ground. The tests carried out always have to do with cultivations in the ground without disinfection, because we need the varieties to show their rusticity. And we have more and more limits when it comes to soil diseases. As for Nova Series genetic strawberry varieties, they have given us a significant advantage in terms of strawberry quality, and especially in terms of post-harvest durability, but also in terms of the taste of the fruit, which is an important parameter for our consumers. So the Rosetta is a variety that we have been handling for several years already with Nova Series genetics. We have Nova Series commercial varieties like Marimbella as an early strawberry, and also Joelita. We also worked with another type of Rosetta in the past, but it had some problems with plant materials and so on. So then later on we introduced Rosetta Gold, which is a variety of enhanced quality. It is a premium variety. It has an aroma, it has a lot of taste, it has what I think is the best skin that a strawberry can have right now on the market. It is a variety that is very suitable for transplantation, it has virtually no risk of rotting, and in addition to this, it has a high yield. Farmers can get an abundant harvest. It is therefore a variety that has excellent characteristics to become a leading product in the strawberry sector, especially thanks to its taste and aroma. At agronomic level, it is also a variety that has a fairly good average production. We're talking about a variety that can yield about 800 grams of commercial fruit. Among the varieties we deal with, the quantity that we're talking about is more or less 700 grams, which means that from a production point of view, it is better. The average productivity of strawberries can equal to yields of around 700 grams per plant for a top quality strawberry. So you have to make an evaluation. There are many parameters that need to be evaluated. For example, the production that some varieties have can reach 1 kilo or 1.2 kilos, but if 500 grams have to be discarded, it can't be an interesting variety after all. It's best to have a variety that produces 700 grams of fruit with just 5% or less going to waste. In terms of sustainability, genetic improvement is also important, since we can have varieties that require less water consumption, that require less fertilizers, and more rustic varieties, which therefore do not need soil disinfection, for example. And all of this is an important aspect for sustainability. Therefore, genetics is a key part of the work that we do with all berries, because in the end it is the same procedure that applies to all berries, so that we can get varieties that are more rustic, require less water consumption, less fertilizer consumption, that do not require soil disinfection, and that require less phytosanitary treatments. Our journey to Huelva continues as we move from the strawberry field to the processing plant. All our farms are located within a radius of about 1 kilometer. We have everything around here close to our main plants. Thanks to this, we can quickly receive the strawberries in our facilities and pre-cool them so that they can reach the right temperature and have a longer shelf life when they are put on sale. So, in order to do all this, we have some facilities. They are modern facilities which we have expanded over the years, while always having premium varieties in mind. The production that we have is a bit more limited. It is about 30 to 32 tons per hectare. We produce a little less, obviously, due to our self-imposed quality requirements in order to remain at that level. Usually, the markets that we work with are mainly European markets, and aiming at the quality of our end products is our mission. We receive the goods very quickly because our farm is located right next to our facilities. We pre-cool everything with an ammonia cooling system, which is a much more effective technique compared to the systems that were used in the past. Once the strawberries have been pre-cooled, they are processed and packaged, and then, in the end, they are refrigerated. The fruit is prepared and cooled properly in less than about 2 hours and is ready to be collected and distributed in several European countries. Now we're back to Italy, one of the main European strawberry producers with about 4,000 hectares. We'll visit one of the leading players in the sector, the Macfrut Group. We'll see how the needs of varietal innovation and those of the market come together. We'll follow the strawberries from delivery to packaging, expanding on the processing lines, technologies and the most used types of packaging. For Macfrut, strawberries are one of the main crops in several regions. One of these is Basilicata, which is where Macfrut intervenes directly with its producers. Then the Campania region, where Copsole, our partner of the Mediterraneo Group, manages its part of the production. Overall, the group accounts for about 15,000 to 17,000 tons of strawberries. A key aspect for the group is also organic farming. This calls for the selection of rustic varieties, which are therefore more resistant and need less intervention. We know that in organic production it is essential to cut interventions as much as possible and to make use of beneficial insects. This is why we're leaning towards rustic varieties. Beneficial insects are also key in the defense of conventionally grown products, obviously. When looking at different varieties, we value the taste, the durability of the product, a shelf life that is not only suitable for the domestic market, but also for the international one, and the productivity of the varieties. For varietal innovation, what we're looking for is durability, productivity, and taste. When the products get to the processing facilities, the quality can no longer be improved at this stage. However, it can be preserved, and the same applies to transport. It can be maintained for the whole journey. Maintaining the cold chain is fundamental for quality strawberries. When the products leave the countryside and reach the facility, they are refrigerated, stored, and then brought to the processing lines. Afterwards, the strawberry punnets move through a conveyor system and are directed to a scale where the weight that the end user will get is checked. Then the product is sealed and goes through a UV tunnel where it can be sanitized. The sanitization takes place precisely in these tunnels. They are equipped with UV lamps and they reduced the bacterial load. Then the strawberries go through a sorting line where the barcode on the punnet is checked. This is how we know the type of packaging we need, that is, covered on top, heat sealed, or wrapped in cling film. When it's time for our customers to buy the product, the barcode also gives us a chance to track it. In other words, the barcode allows us to know where a strawberry was produced and what was used to produce it, and it can give us an overview of the whole journey of the strawberry. After this process, Ulma's packaging machine closes the package, which is either done by placing a lid on top and a sticker to ensure the punnet is properly closed, or by heat sealing. Heat sealing at Ulma is now achieved with very advanced technologies that allow us to use thin and recyclable materials and fully recyclable or recycled plastic, meaning that our impact on the environment is very low. Moreover, Ulma's packaging machines have an advanced, highly digitalized system that allows us to monitor how production takes place, to track the batch and know the expiry date, as well as to add further information on the cling film that covers the punnet. The machine we have today allows us to use punnets of different heights very quickly. We are talking about small to medium-sized machines that can close and seal up to 110 punnets per minute, work with compostable cling film, recyclable plastic film, or even cardboard punnets. We have put effort into making these machines very flexible in terms of the materials that can be used, which have a low impact on the environment. All the machines are equipped with very advanced software, which we can also use to order spare parts by typing directly on the machine dashboard and to carry out remote maintenance. Our electronics today look a lot like automotive electronics. If maintenance is needed, you are notified through the dashboard, and operators can always count on a fully efficient machine. By using the electronic technologies that are available today and the smart features of these machines, we are creating a database with information on which components are subject to wear and what their durability is. In the near future, we're going to be able to tell our customers whether they need to replace a bearing, a blade, or plastic belts, for instance, reducing machine downtime and therefore streamlining production. As far as the end-of-line processes are concerned, we're trying to reduce physical work for operators who may only have to check quality visually. This can be achieved with end-of-line automation, and in the future it will allow us to automatically fill and palletize cases. This is something we are working on to meet the needs of our customers. So we try to be mindful of costs and provide highly efficient products. It is fundamental to make sure the packaging you choose is resistant, provides ventilation for strawberries and therefore protects the fruit. As for conventional products, we have mainly opted for recyclable plastic punnets, which are the heart of product display. The punnets come in different shapes and sizes, but they all preserve the quality of the products. This is fundamental. They need to be so resistant as to be used for harvest directly in the field, which is essential for strawberries. As for organic strawberries, cardboard punnets are becoming more and more popular. Packaging plays a key role in maintaining the quality of strawberries. There are different formats on the market. We have open punnets available in a 250, 350 or 500 gram size, and based on the one you opt for, you can then place more or less items in the cases, which are 30 by 40 or 40 by 60. For a more exclusive service, we have punnets with handles and others that come with a lid on top. They can include a bubble pad or a cushion to protect the fruit from bruising and ensure a longer shelf life as a result of moisture being absorbed, thus preventing mold from forming. More visually pleasing is a punnet with a black base, which is much appreciated to enhance premium quality products. Heat-sealed punnets are another option, in addition to further solutions which are less commonly used but can still be chosen to customize a line by printing a design on the side of the punnet. The fruit is undoubtedly protected with the lid and heat sealing. Once you have written off the cost of the machine, the letter will save you money and grams of plastic used. However, packaging strawberries in a punnet with a lid certainly gives the fruit a more natural feeling and a whole different look. As for the materials, the punnets are mainly made of rPET plastic, that is, recycled plastic. Then we use bioplastic, paper and cellulose pulp. In the organic strawberry sector, harvesting is done using alternative materials. Thanks to the Trade-to-Trade project, we had a chance to see that Infia's rPET punnets can be part of a closed-loop recycling system. This is achieved by consumers separating their waste and by large-scale retailers collecting the rPET punnets in collection centres, which are then sorted, shredded and washed at a recycling plant, and are finally reintegrated by Infia into the production cycle. To us, this is what sustainability is all about. The journey into the world of strawberries, the protagonist of Macfrut Academy's 4th video lesson, has come to an end. In the next episode, we'll get back to talking about Chilean cherries, focusing on post-harvest. In case you missed the first video lesson on cherries, it's available on our platform. In the meantime, you can keep up with Macfrut and get real-time updates on LinkedIn, Facebook and Instagram. We'll see you again next time.